Hey everyone, if you're looking for a story that will make you rethink everything, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments below where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see who's joining us from around the world. The Golden Lie. In the dazzling heart of Manhattan, William Will Langston reigns as a modern king, a vibrant embodiment of the American dream. Born in the shadowed alleys of Detroit, where hope was just a whisper among crumbling walls, Will clawed his way to the top with the fierce ambition of a lion. Before he was 30, he forged Langston Global, a powerful empire stretching from cutting-edge tech startups to opulent hotels that shimmered with golden splendor. His smile, sharp and charismatic like a Hollywood lead, could ignite an entire room with light. With hair perfectly slicked back, a tailored suit that hugged his frame, and eyes brimming with confidence, as if the world were his to command. Will is the focal point of every gaze, an irresistible star in the city's sky. His midtown penthouse, a golden palace suspended among the stars, serves as a stage for lavish soirees. The elite gather under crystal chandeliers, raising champagne flutes to honor Will's radiant aura, a man who seems to hold the key to invincibility. Each morning, as dawn breaks over the horizon, his private chauffeur glides a Rolls-Royce through the bustling streets, delivering him to the 50-story tower that bears the Langston Global name. The building stands resolute, a mountain of steel and glass, a testament to his unyielding strength. Employees, in hushed and awestruck tones, relay stories of Will's almost mythical work ethic, arriving before sunrise and departing only when the city lights twinkle, transforming Manhattan into a sea of stars at his feet. The press hails him as the Golden Lion, a fitting title for a man who is at once a visionary entrepreneur, a generous philanthropist, and, above all, the ideal husband. Articles in Forbes and Vogue consistently paint him as a hero of the age, a man who turned dreams into reality through sweat and ingenuity. Photographs of him in a tuxedo at charity galas, hand in hand with his wife, constantly adorn the front pages, captivating the public with their fairy tale narrative. However, deep within Will's soul, in a place untouched by the glow of fame, cracks have begun to form. He feels the weight of the crown he wears, a burden invisible to others, even as he displays a radiant smile for the cameras. Will doesn't always feel like the invincible king the world sees. In rare moments, standing alone in his vast office overlooking the city, he feels a nameless void, a chilling emptiness. Ambition propelled him to the heights, but it also caged him in a gilded prison of his own making. He wonders if this brilliance truly belongs to him, or if it's merely a performance he's forced to stage daily. The parties, the handshakes, the accolades, all seem like a veneer concealing a truth he dares not face. Slowly, he's losing himself. He longs for something more authentic, deeper, but he has no idea where to look. Under the world's admiring gaze, Will moves with the bearing of a man in complete control. He convinces himself that everything is perfect. His business thrives, his reputation is unshakable, his marriage is a dream. But in the quietude of night's dreams, as the city lights dim, he glimpses shadows slipping by, whispering secrets he hasn't yet dared to acknowledge. He remains unaware that beneath this polished facade, the cracks are spreading, like a spiderweb across fragile glass, waiting for the moment they will shatter. Every step he takes at the pinnacle of glory brings him closer to an abyss where the truth will be laid bare. And as the gleam of the Golden Lion begins to fade, all of Manhattan will witness a story no one could have foreseen. What do you think is truly missing from Will's seemingly perfect life? What secrets do you believe lurk beneath the surface of his success? Share your theories in the comments. In the luminous grandeur of Manhattan, where dreams shimmer like stars against a velvet sky, Sophia Langston, née Caldwell, moves with the grace of a swan, her elegant poise veiling a heart trembling on the verge of breaking. Born into the world of James Caldwell, a real estate titan whose skyscrapers cast long shadows over the city, Sophia was cradled in a life of ambition and opulence. Yet her soul gravitated towards humbler virtues, kindness, empathy, and a quiet hope that even the smallest acts could mend the world's fractures. Her golden hair, cascading like dawn's rays, catches the light with every turn of her head. Her ocean blue eyes hold depths of unspoken dreams, and her smile, soft yet radiant, possesses the power to soften even the hardest spirits. Among the city's elite, she is a rare treasure, a beacon of sophistication whose inner light eclipses the glittering facades around her. 2 summers passed. Beneath the golden arches of the Plaza Hotel, Sophia donned a white silk gown that seemed to flow like molten silver, stepping into her marriage with William Langston as if entering a fairy tale woven by the stars. That wedding was a spectacle that captivated the world, a dazzling event where Hollywood icons shimmered alongside billionaires in political power centers, all raising crystal flutes to toast the golden couple. Paparazzi flashes painted the night, freezing their union in a moment of eternal promise. For Sophia, it was more than a ceremony. It was the day she fully surrendered her heart to Will, trusting that their love would be a flame that time could never extinguish. She saw in him not just a husband, but a partner, to share her vision of a life rich in purpose and devotion. In the seasons that followed, Sophia found her true calling in philanthropy, a realm where her heart could soar without limits. She orchestrated lavish galas to fund children's hospitals, where she knelt beside tiny patients, her eyes sparkling with wonder as they took her hand, calling her their angel. Their trust filled her with a warmth no jewel could match, a reminder of life's fragile beauty. She dedicated her energy to women's shelters, offering solace to those whose spirits had been bruised by fate, her gentle presence a balm to their wounds. The city embraced her, and newspapers crowned her the Swan of Manhattan, a woman whose beauty was matched only by her boundless compassion. When news of her pregnancy spread across the city, Manhattan erupted in celebration. The tabloids tracked her every step, capturing her at prenatal visits, softly caressing her belly with a smile that seemed to illuminate the skyline. They hailed her and Will as the perfect couple, prophesying a new, radiant chapter in their enchanted tale. However, beneath her serene exterior, Sophia felt a chill seeping into her soul, a nameless fear she couldn't shake. In the midst of the city's fervent adoration, the first fissures appeared in Sophia's idyllic world, subtle at first, but growing like cracks in a delicate porcelain vase. Will, once her confidant, whose laughter could ignite her own until tears welled up, began to drift away, his warmth replaced by a hollow distance that left her breathless. His sudden business trips to London or Chicago, never aligning with Langston Global's official itinerary, sowed seeds of confusion in her mind. Dinners planned with tender care, candlelit evenings meant to rekindle their closeness, were abruptly canceled, dismissed with clipped excuses and glances that refused to meet hers. When she ventured to question him, his responses carried a glacial tone, as if she were an intruder meddling in a domain that was no longer hers. Sophia tried to stifle her growing fears, telling herself it was the price of ambition. Her father, James, had sacrificed endless hours to forge his empire, and she reasoned that Will, consumed by his own relentless drive, was simply engrossed in the demands of his world. But each time he left, leaving her alone in the sprawling penthouse, her heart trembled, sensing a secret lurking in the shadows. Her unease grew, a somber melody resonating deeply within her spirit. Standing before her mirror, hands tenderly resting on her belly, she felt the gentle movements of her unborn child, the sole beacon in her moments of solitude. She recalled the early days of their love, when Will held her hand under a moonlit sky, promising to shield her with the whole world. Those promises now seemed like threads of gauze, fraying in the wind. She fought to silence the dark whispers in her mind, clinging to the belief that their bond was unbreakable, capable of weathering any tempest. Yet, every cold glance from Will, every evasive answer, was a tiny blade carving at her heart, leaving scars only she could see. She began to wonder if she was living in a fantasy of her own making, or if a harsher reality lay hidden, waiting to unravel her world. As Manhattan's lights twinkled beyond the penthouse windows, Sophia sat alone, poring over nursery magazines, selecting soft hues like mint green and lavender to cradle her child's arrival. But her joy was shadowed by an elusive fear, as if fate itself was murmuring that her fairy tale teetered on the brink of collapse. Unbeknownst to her, in the hidden corners of the city, Will's secrets were taking root, growing like a storm about to annihilate everything she loved. Her heart, though shaken, clung to hope. Yet, deep within, an unyielding flame burned, ready to roar, to safeguard the child she carried. Sophia, the Swan of Manhattan, stood on the precipice of a truth that would test her soul, unaware that her resilience would soon become the city's most enduring legend. What do you think is the secret Will is hiding? How will Sophia discover the truth? Share your predictions in the comments below. Under the dazzling lights of Manhattan, where every secret seems destined for revelation, whispers began to weave through the corridors of power, carrying the scent of scandal. High society, accustomed to tales of glamour, now murmured about a mysterious enchantress. Juliette Moreau, a woman claiming to be an art dealer from Paris, with raven black hair, eyes sharp as a blade, and a smile brimming with allure, emerged like a strange wind, bringing danger and temptation. She glided through the hallways of Langston Global in Valentino and Dior gowns, every step a proclamation of confidence and authority. After hours, when the office lights dimmed, she was seen leaving the top floor, where William Langston held court, and slipping into gleaming black cars, devoid of the Langston Empire's logo. Those cars vanished into the night, leaving behind curious glances and whispers, too timid to be uttered aloud. Will's employees, though loyal, couldn't ignore Juliette's presence. However, the fear of his wrath, a tempest that could lay waste to anyone's career, compelled them to seal their lips, exchanging only anxious glances in the hidden corners of the 50-story tower. Rumors, like flames spread by the wind, quickly swept through boardrooms and hallways, painting the picture of a woman who was not merely a threat to Sophia Langston, but a deeper crack in Will's impeccable facade. At the heart of these whispers, a storm silently brewed, and the first to feel its heat was Emma Grayson, Will's personal assistant. At 28, Emma was the sharp-eyed sentinel of Langston Global, a young woman with a keen mind and a sensitive heart. For 5 years, she had served Will, learning to read his every frown, every smile, making herself indispensable to his vast machine. But lately, Emma felt a current of unease filtering into her thoughts, like a discordant note in a perfect symphony. She noticed invoices for lavish dinners at restaurants she never booked, bouquets of crimson roses sent to an address absent from the company directory, and secret meetings hastily scrawled in Will's agenda. With no names or purpose, each tiny detail, like fragments of a grim puzzle, quickened Emma's heartbeat. Not out of curiosity, but from a vague dread that she was witnessing the collapse of something sacred. Emma's unease peaked one afternoon when she encountered Sophia in the executive lounge. Sophia, her face pale, hands clasped over her pregnant belly, appeared like a painting faded by time. Her eyes, once alight with fire, were now clouded, as if lost in a dream from which there was no escape. Emma felt her heart constrict. A nameless guilt stirred within her. For a long time she had admired Sophia, not just for her elegant beauty, but for the compassion she had brought to Manhattan. Yet now, seeing this woman standing there, fragile yet proud, Emma felt the fragility of the happiness Sophia once trusted. She longed to speak, to break the wall of silence, but her loyalty to Will held her back, like an invisible cord tightening around her throat. In the long nights that followed, as the city lights twinkled outside her small apartment, Emma couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, poring over invoices, emails, and the fragments of secrets she had unwittingly uncovered. Every line, every number, was a reminder that she stood at a crossroads. Her loyalty to Will, who had given her the opportunity to rise, now clashed with her conscience, which screamed that the truth must be revealed. She thought of Sophia, of the unborn child, and of the cracks she saw in the woman's gaze. Emma knew she could no longer remain silent, that the truth, however painful, was the only way to redeem the part she felt she had played in this unfolding tragedy. What do you think Emma will do with the secrets she's uncovered? How will this impact Will and Sophia's lives? Share your thoughts in the comments. As Manhattan's lights glimmered like fallen stars, Sophia Langston gently caressed her pregnant belly, each touch a silent promise to her unborn child. She immersed herself in philanthropy, orchestrating fundraisers with an elegant smile, masking the unease gnawing at her heart. But not far away, in the seductive shadows of a Belmond Hotel penthouse, William Langston, the king of Manhattan, descended into an abyss he couldn't perceive. Juliette Moreau, a woman with unfathomable eyes and a smile like a gilded blade, had become the center of his universe, a trap woven with the delicacy of a master manipulator. Juliette's penthouse was a palace of desires, where city lights poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting off white leather sofas and expensive champagne bottles. She greeted Will in a red silk robe, clinging to her figure like an irresistible invitation. Her perfume, intoxicating and enchanting, enveloped him like an invisible snare. Each time he entered that room, the outside world, the Langston global empire, Sophia's expectant gaze, and the vows he once etched into his heart, dissolved like mist. Juliette was more than a mistress. She was an enchantment, a promise of freedom he yearned for in the deepest recesses of his soul, where ambition and pressure had long imprisoned him. In those moments, Juliette murmured about European ventures, art auctions in Paris, and new horizons Langston Global could conquer. Her voice, soft as velvet yet sharp as a dagger, slid into Will's mind, blinding him to the warning signs. Drawn by her allure, he began diverting vast sums from the company's charitable funds into secret accounts she provided. He believed they were astute investments, bold moves to elevate his empire to greater heights. But he was oblivious to the truth. Juliette was weaving a web of money laundering. Every dollar he transferred was a noose tightening around his neck, serving her own ambitions for power. Each time he left Juliette, Will felt a wave of guilt wash over him, like a dark tide drowning his resolve. The image of Sophia, her delicate hands cradling her belly, tormented his thoughts, squeezing his chest. He recalled the days they dreamed of a family, the nights he vowed to protect her with the world. But those memories were quickly eclipsed by Juliet's gaze, by the illusory freedom she offered. Will told himself he was in control, that he could keep this secret, that he could balance these two worlds. He convinced himself the diverted funds were necessary, that Juliet was a business partner, not a threat. Yet, deep in his heart, a faint voice warned him he walked a fragile tightrope, where a single misstep could send everything crashing down. Juliet, with a hunter's cunning, sensed Will's vulnerabilities. She saw his ego, his burning ambition, and the loneliness he hid behind an impeccable smile. Every word she uttered, every brush of her hand, was calculated to draw him deeper into her net. She didn't just crave money, she yearned for power, prestige, and a place in the high society Will embodied. In rare moments alone before a mirror, her eyes gleamed with cold confidence. She knew she was playing a dangerous game, but she believed she would emerge victorious, leaving Will and Sophia amidst the ruins of shattered dreams. When Will returned to his own penthouse, the city lights still twinkled outside, but they no longer offered the thrill of triumph. He stood by the window, gazing at Manhattan, the city he once believed he owned. But now, each flicker felt like a reminder of the secrets he kept, the decisions he couldn't undo. Guilt and desire intertwined in his mind, forming a vortex he couldn't escape. He didn't know that, in the shadows, Juliet's net was tightening, and the seeds of betrayal he had sown would soon sprout, destroying everything he once treasured. Manhattan, with its cold heart and impassive eyes, awaited the moment when Will's brilliance would be extinguished by his own hand. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are yet to come, and please, leave a comment below, letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who joins us from all over the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Manhattan, with its shimmering lights like whispers of fate, braced itself to witness a storm about to sweep across the glittering veneer of the Langston Empire. In the serene tranquility of her penthouse, Sophia Langston sat by the window, her gaze heavy with sadness as she tracked the flow of traffic below. Her hands, gently cradling her pregnant belly, felt the tiny flutters of her unborn child, the sole flame keeping her steady during the lonely days. But on a somber morning, as the city sky was overcast with gray clouds, a message from an unknown number jolted her heart, like an alarm bell. The sender was Daniel Hayes, a bellhop at the Belmont Hotel, the name of a stranger bearing the weight of truth. He wrote that he had something to share, a secret that could change everything. Sophia, her heart pounding, felt an icy shiver run down her spine, as if destiny itself had knocked at her door. Daniel, a young man with earnest yet anxious eyes, had once met Will at a charity gala, where he served in a humble uniform. Memories of Will's confident smile, the radiant aura of the Golden Lion, were now tainted by what he witnessed at the Belmont. Within Daniel, a fierce internal battle raged. He knew revealing the truth could put him in danger, but the image of Sophia, the elegant woman with a heart for the vulnerable, compelled him to act. He sent her a photo, hastily taken with an old phone. It showed Will emerging from the Belmont's elevator, hand in hand with Juliet Moreau, a woman with gleaming black hair and a haughty smile. The image, though blurry, was a sharp dagger, piercing the veil of denial Sophia once clung to. In a small, hidden cafe on a quiet corner, Sophia sat across from Daniel, a scarf partially concealing her pale face. Her hands gripped a coffee cup tightly, as if seeking an anchor amidst a whirlwind of emotions. As Daniel slid the phone toward her, his eyes filled with remorse, Sophia felt the world slow to a halt. The photo appeared before her, raw and ruthless, a confirmation of the doubts she tried to bury. Her heart seized, each beat a fresh wound. But instead of letting the pain engulf her, she felt a resilient fire ignite in her chest. Will's betrayal, though agonizing, didn't break her. It awakened a strength she never knew she possessed. She met Daniel's gaze, her eyes gleaming with determination. And in that moment, the Swan of Manhattan transformed into a warrior, ready to protect her child and her dignity. Sophia's resolve led her to Margaret Lee, the experienced lawyer for the Caldwell family, a woman with piercing eyes and an unyielding heart. In a discreet office near Central Park, Margaret listened to Sophia's story, her hand scanning the photo and Daniel's notes with cold concentration. For Margaret, this was more than a personal matter. It was a legal battle to protect the woman she considered a daughter. She vowed to gather evidence, from financial transactions to the smallest details, to build a fortress of steel around Sophia and her unborn child. Sophia, sitting across from Margaret, felt a spark of hope piercing the fog of anguish. She knew the road ahead would be thorny, but every step she took was for her child, for herself, and for a truth she couldn't allow to be buried. Meanwhile, in the Langston Global Tower, Emma Grayson, Will's personal assistant, felt her heart heavy. The irregularities she noticed, extravagant invoices, mysterious bouquets, nameless meetings, were no longer vague questions. They were proof of a dark truth she could no longer ignore. One night, as the office was shrouded in darkness, Emma sat in front of Will's computer, her fingers trembling, reviewing emails and documents. What she found chilled her to the bone. Massive transfers from the company's charitable funds to offshore accounts, disguised as art investments. Juliet, the woman Emma had glimpsed fleetingly, was not just a mistress. She was the architect of a brazen money laundering scheme. Guilt for remaining silent too long mingled with determination, and Emma copied everything, sending it to Margaret Lee, knowing this act could alter everything. As dawn broke over this Manhattan skyline, Sophia felt a shift in her soul. The pain of betrayal persisted, but it had given way to an iron will. She was no longer the naive wife awaiting her husband's return. She was a mother, a warrior, ready to face the storm. Emma, in her small apartment, felt a glimmer of relief as the truth was unleashed, but she feared what was to come. Both women, in their own way, had ignited a fateful turning point, a moment that would shatter the gilded facade of Will Langston. Manhattan, with its cold heart, awaited the day the truth would erupt, exposing cracks too deep to heal. Manhattan, with its ever-burning lights, braced itself to witness a fateful moment where the glittering curtain of an empire would be torn asunder. In the opulent ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel, the light of crystal chandeliers danced upon the marble floor, creating a scene from a fairy tale. Sophia Langston, in an emerald gown that clung to her figure, glided among the elite with an elegant smile, but her heart was a smoldering furnace, hiding the wounds of William Langston's betrayal. Tonight, she co-hosted a charity gala for women's shelters, an event to honor broken souls, a mission that now resonated deeply in her own life. Every step she took was an act of pride, a way to maintain her dignity amidst curious glances and whispers of secrets she had uncovered. Will arrived late, his usual confident demeanor now tinged with tension. His eyes avoided Sophia's, as if he feared a fleeting glance might expose the sins he concealed. But the entrance of Juliette Moreau, in a silver gown that gleamed like moonlight, was a blatant challenge. Juliette moved through the crowd with the arrogance of a predator, her eyes fixed on Will, her smile a gilded blade. Guests, from politicians to Hollywood stars, exchanged discreet glances, noting the excessive intimacy in the fleeting looks between Will and Juliette. Whispers spread rapidly, like a cold breeze through the warm room, sowing doubts about the Langston fairy tale. Sophia, though she felt those stares, maintained an impeccable facade. But inside, her heart bled, each beat a reminder of the cruel truth she had faced. As she ascended the stage, Sophia became the center of all eyes. Her speech, about empowering women and protecting the vulnerable, cut like a sword sharpened by suffering. Every word, uttered with serene grace, was a dagger aimed at the treacherous husband who remained in the shadows. She spoke of honesty, security, the value of promises, words that pierced Will's mind like blades, leaving him motionless, his face taut with tension. For Sophia, the stage was not merely a platform for inspiration. It was a battlefield where she reclaimed her voice. But as she descended, her heart pounding with adrenaline, an unexpected moment shattered her proud facade. Juliette, with cold calculation, deliberately bumped into Sophia's pregnant belly, making her gasp, a sharp pain igniting like a warning from fate. Will rushed forward, but not to comfort his wife. In a panicked, enraged outburst, he turned to Sophia, his eyes icy, blaming her for carelessness. Those words, like a final cut, annihilated the last illusions in Sophia's heart. The pain, humiliation, and fury erupted like a volcano, swallowing her fear. Before the horrified crowd, she stood tall, confronting Will, her eyes gleaming with resolve despite her trembling voice. She was no longer the fragile swan. She was a fire, fierce and inextinguishable. Will, cornered by her gaze and the suffocating silence of those present, felt his perfect mask crack. In a moment of losing control, his hand swung, a slap resounding like a gunshot, leaving a vivid red mark on Sophia's cheek. Camera flashes erupted, capturing the instant the golden lion destroyed his own kingdom. Sophia staggered, her hand clutching her cheek. But her eyes never left Will. The physical pain was nothing compared to the humiliation and devastation in her soul. She felt hot tears welling up, but bit her lip, refusing to let them fall. The crowd, from the powerful to the paparazzi, remained motionless, swept into the maelstrom of tragedy. Juliette, behind Will, briefly showed a triumphant smile, but her eyes soon shifted to unease as she grasped the potency of the moment. Will, his chest heaving with adrenaline, felt a wave of regret. But it was too late. That slap was not merely an act of violence. It was a declaration that ended the dream he and Sophia once built together. He stood there, like a dethroned king, watching his brilliance fade in the glare of the flashes. In Sophia's heart, a transformation occurred. The pain and betrayal didn't crush her. They forged her into a new woman, ready to fight for her child and her dignity. She felt the strength of the baby within her, a small flame guiding her through the darkness. As she walked away, her steps firm, despite her trembling body, she knew this moment would change everything. Manhattan, with its impassive eyes, had witnessed the fall of an icon, but also the rise of a warrior. The storm, now unleashed, would sweep everything away, leaving behind a truth that could not be hidden. Manhattan, the city that never sleeps, awoke to a frenzy of indignation as scandal spread like wildfire, consuming William Langston's radiant aura. The tabloids, like ravenous vultures, plastered headlines on the front pages. Millionaire Langston assaults pregnant wife. The image of the slap in the St. Regis ballroom, etched in crimson on Sophia's cheek, became an emblem of the Golden Lion's downfall. Langston Global's stock plummeted like a sinking ship. The board of directors, once hailing Will as a king, now recoiled with murmurs of anger. In his gilded penthouse, once a palace of splendor, Will found himself alone, isolated within cold walls, his empty gaze fixed on the horizon he once believed was his. His heart, once throbbing with ambition, now trembled with fear and regret, like a weary traveler lost in a storm of his own making. Juliette Moreau, the woman who once captivated Will with her smile and promises, realized her power play was over. In a desperate moment, she hurled blackmail threats, her icy voice on the phone cutting like a sharp blade, demanding sums he couldn't pay without alerting the board. But as the flashing lights of scandal illuminated every corner, Juliette, with a survivor's cunning, silently slipped out of Manhattan, leaving Will to face the ruins of the empire he built. She vanished like a specter, carrying secrets and millions diverted from the charity funds she manipulated him into transferring. Will, standing before a mirror in his deserted office, stared into his own eyes, the eyes of a man who lost everything to desire. Regret gnawed at him, but he choked in panic, realizing there was no escape. Meanwhile, Sophia Langston, protected by her father, James Caldwell, and experienced lawyer Margaret Lee, was forging a relentless lawsuit, a fortress of steel to protect her unborn child. In her Upper East Side penthouse, Sophia sat by a window, her gaze resolute, though her heart still bled from the betrayal. Each night she cradled her belly, feeling the faint movements of her child, a silent promise to him that became the flame guiding her through the darkness. Margaret, with the acumen of a legal warrior, sifted through documents and transactions, exposing Will's sins. Evidence from Emma Grayson, his once loyal assistant, dealt a fatal blow. Millions from Langston Global's charitable funds were embezzled, funneled into secret accounts under Juliette's control. Those cold numbers weren't just proof of fraud. They were an indictment that pushed Will towards criminal prosecution, transforming him from an icon into a felon. But the sharpest, most piercing blow, more potent than any law, came from Sophia herself. In an elegant living room, where soft light bathed legal documents, she confronted Will and his lawyers. With a voice soft yet resonant as a bell, she revealed a secret that had tormented her through sleepless nights. Her unborn child suffered from a serious illness, requiring surgery shortly after birth. The funds Will squandered on Juliette, dollars meant for needy children, could have saved her son. Her confession, like a tsunami, swept away every defense Will could muster. He sat there, face pale, eyes wide with shock and remorse. The image of Sophia, pregnant and unyielding, etched itself into his mind like a scar that would never fade. He longed to speak, to beg for forgiveness, but his throat choked, leaving only the silence of a man who saw that he betrayed not only his wife, but his own blood. Sophia, though anguished, refused to crumble. Every tear she held back was a testament to her strength. She thought of her son, of the impending surgeries, and a fierce determination surged like fire in a cold wind. She was no longer Will's victim. She was a mother, a warrior, ready to fight for her child's future. Margaret, by her side, felt this shift, her eyes gleaming with silent pride. Meanwhile, Will, retreating to his penthouse, felt his world collapsing around him. Calls from the board, from the press, even from his own mother, sounded like death knells. He poured a glass of whiskey, but the liquid couldn't calm his pain. The slap at the St. Regis, once a moment of madness, now stood as an eternal verdict, marking the end of the Golden Lion. Manhattan, with its callous heart, continued to spin in a kaleidoscope of neon lights. But Will's story had taken a dark chapter. Sophia, with invisible scars, found a strange serenity thinking of her son. She knew that, from the ashes of this scandal, she would rebuild her life, stronger than ever. The storm had stripped away the false brilliance, leaving a raw truth. And in that truth, Sophia found a path forward, carrying a mother's boundless love. What was the most impactful moment for you in Sophia's journey? Rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments below, and tell us why. A new legacy. That autumn, as golden leaves softly fell upon Manhattan's streets, Sophia Langston embarked on a new chapter of her life, where the pain of heartbreak gave way to the radiance of love and resilience. In the immaculate white room of the city's finest hospital, she gave birth to a baby boy, a tiny angel with sparkling eyes, who carried hope through stormy days. Though the child required surgery shortly after birth to face a serious illness, his vibrant spirit was a flame that warmed Sophia's heart, dispelling the shadows of betrayal and grief. Holding her son in her arms, feeling his delicate breaths, Sophia felt a profound peace, as if every wound in her soul was healing, little by little. This child, with his fragile yet unyielding smile, was the reason she fought, the guiding star that led her through fate's tempest. Sitting by her son's hospital bed, Sophia looked out the window, where the soft autumn sunlight filtered through the trees. She reflected on the past months, the slap at the St. Regis, Will's cold gaze, and the long nights she cradled her belly, holding back tears to preserve her dignity. But now, that pain was no longer a burden. It had forged her into a new woman, a warrior with a heart of steel and unconditional love. Her father, James Caldwell, stood by her side. His eyes filled with pride and a hint of sadness. With his support, Sophia redirected the Caldwell Foundation, transforming it into a beacon for families facing pediatric medical challenges. She named the foundation in honor of her son, a promise that his story would inspire thousands more. Every decision she made, every plan she crafted, was a step towards turning pain into purpose, tears into hope. Leaving the hospital, Sophia embraced her son, stepping into the glare of paparazzi flashes. She no longer hid her face, nor bowed her head. She faced the world with a warrior's serenity. A silk coat gently covered her, but it was her resolute gaze and tender smile that silenced the photographers. She was not a victim of scandal. She was Sophia Langston, the unyielding mother who rose from the ashes to rewrite her story. The next day's headlines lauded her. Sophia Langston, a mother triumphant over adversity. The public, once enchanted by the Langston fairy tale, now admired her for her strength and courage, for turning tragedy into a symbol of rebirth. In Sophia's heart, every word was a reminder that she had not merely survived, she had triumphed. Meanwhile, William Langston, once hailed as the Golden Lion, was now but a shadow of his former self. The Langston Global Board, which once lauded him, ousted him as CEO, leaving him to face criminal charges and impending bankruptcy. His gilded penthouse, once filled with laughter and the clinking of champagne flutes, became a prison of solitude. Will stood at the window, gazing at the city he once believed he owned. but the neon lights now felt cold and distant. Regret consumed him, not for the lost empire, but for moments he could never reclaim. Sophia's pained eyes, the opportunity to be a father to the son he unknowingly betrayed. He thought of Juliet, who fled, leaving behind threats and a mountain of debt. Yet deep down, he knew it was he and no one else who had brought his kingdom down. Sophia, now an emblem of courage, entered motherhood with an open heart. No longer defined as Will's wife, she was shaped by her love for her child and her mission to bring hope to others. Each morning, holding her son, feeling his warmth, she saw a new world unfold. A world where love conquered deception, where a woman's strength could shake Manhattan itself. She thought of other women, those who passed through the shelters she funded, and she knew her story would ignite their spirits. Within her, the scars of the past lingered, but they were not marks of defeat. They were proof of survival, of rising from darkness. Manhattan, with its bustling streets and endless dreams, continued to spin in a whirlwind of lights. But Sophia's story had etched itself into the heart of the city, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, the power of a mother, of a woman, could work miracles. As she walked forward, her child in her arms and her gaze held high, Sophia knew her future would be built on love, not deceit. She was not just a survivor. She was a torchbearer, guiding those lost in their own storms. If this heartwarming story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue telling stories of resilience, love, and triumph over adversity. Leave a comment. What did you think of Sophia's journey?